Samupe, Sampadiatia, Chimafidi non kotu, era one radio. Samupe, Jumpadiatia, Chimafidi non kotu, era one radio. Oh, and you pumpuma, Asam pumpuma.
It's another Thursday, the 7th day of September. We are back live in the studio. We are broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube, also Modern Ghana Radio. It's another edition of the Divine Connection Show. This is where divinity meets humanity. And of course, I can't do this alone. And so I have my strong men, able men, men of wisdom, Reverend Robert Akron and Uncle Max Baden. These are learned men. We have a JD, we have an IT, we have a pastor, we have a physicist, we have all the intellectuals that you can think about. So tonight is going to be another stronghold. Well, before I continue, let me welcome my co-host to the studio, Nisaba and Mr. Baden. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right, it's going to be another fireworks. But, you know, for my updates, let me start with my updates. My niece, my daughter, who has been several times on our show, she used to be very frequent and very, you know, popular with us. But since she got 3 children now, she's so busy. She now doesn't want to come and listen to us anymore. She's busy, you know, nursing children. But I want to wish my niece, Comfort, Boison Cabo, a happy birthday tonight. Today is her birthday. I'm not going to tell her age. They say you don't have to tell a woman's age, so I'm not going to say it, but she's always going to be my baby. So Comfort is celebrating her birthday today. So Comfort, we wish you a happy birthday. I wish I could play you a very nice and befitting song, but you know, sometimes YouTube doesn't allow me to do something. So I'll just give this short song to you as a dedication for you to get up from your sofa and do some dancing. So if you are lining it, of Glory Jesus, or some inspiring song, but you know, YouTube is very critical, so just this will do for now. All right, so that's my way of birthday wishes. Anybody who is celebrating your birthday, I just want to remember you tonight. Nisa, Uncle Max, do you have anybody you want to remember tonight? Celebration or anything you want to throw out there?
Maybe in 9 days I'll be celebrating my birthday.
Okay, we'll take care of you. But anyway, happy birthday in advance.
I will be 60.
Oh, your words were muffled, but you know, I think we lost your words over there.
I will be 60 years old.
Wow, you're telling the whole world. Wow. Oh, wow. 60? Wow, I would have given you 51 or something. Wow, are you sure? Are you sure you are not stealing years?
I ain't taking your bait.
One of our Ghanaian players, our soccer maestro, I'm not going to call his name, but when he came to this country, he actually reduced his years. So you might know him. He
Oh,
reduced his year. Please don't call his name. It's not no, I do not. I do. This is an elderly man. He used to play House of Folk. He reduced his years so much that when he got to retirement age, his years said he was still young. And this guy had already born. So I mean, he was forced to retire when his age wasn't young. Anyway, Uncle Max, any wishes?
No, not from this end. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's do a quick warm up and then we'll continue. So I hear IGP Dampari fired COP Alex Mins. Is that true? It's a rumor, Uncle Max.
I actually haven't heard about that. What I did hear was a rumor that Alan Chematin was going to start a new party.
Oh, wow.
But, I suspect that's mischief from the opposition, because the name that was given is already the name of a party that's been around for some time on these strange parties. But it is indicative of, I think, a bit of confusion in the ranks in our current governing party, that they can't seem to be able to organize free and fair internal elections. So it's a worrying time for the country as a whole.
Well, I mean, it's unfortunate that he stepped. It's unfortunate he stepped down, but anyway, and somewhere being rumored that he should go and stand as a vice president for Baumi and all that. I know Ken is not going to step down. Anyway, needs about any warm ups from your end, anything you want to add? I know you're a Baumia person, so I'm not going to even go there. Or you already put
it's not necessarily a question of me being a Baumia person, but I think he's the best person. And given the candidates, he's the best so far. Forget that. His party has messed up, but looking at Mama, when I compare Mama and Baumia, I don't see Mama actually scoring any positives against Baumia. That's my personal opinion, and I want Ghana to have the best, right? So I would prefer Baumia to Mahama. That's what I would say.
Okay, I'm not going to say mine here because I know the person I'm going to say you wouldn't like him, so I'm not even going to go there. Anyway, let's carry on. Well, as tonight we are still looking at the topic knowledge is power. We are looking at the third temptation that Jesus experienced. Maybe you are wondering and asking, what does the temptation that Jesus, the temptation he went through, what does that have to do with me? How does those apply to our contemporary times? If you've been listening to our programs over the few 3 or 4 weeks, you realize that these are really applicable in our contemporary times. When Jesus or the devil had a confrontation with him and he wanted to trick Jesus, the response that he gave, those are very pertinent to our contemporary times. So you might want to take a piece of paper, grab a pen, and listen to this learned man go through this discussion. We've already dealt with the first 2 temptations. The devil asking Jesus to turn stones into bread and take him to a high mountain and ask him to cast himself down and all that. We're going to look at the third temptation today. And if you just join us, I don't want you to miss out the scripture. Some of you read your Bibles only when you go to church on Christmas. But tonight, I will give you the opportunity. I'm just going to read the few verses and then our strong men will lead us to the discussion. So let me read Matthew chapter 4. Well, for the sake of those who we've come from or where we are coming from. All right, so the verse 1 says, Then was Jesus led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward and hungered. And when the tempter came to him, he said, If thou be the Son of God, command that these stones be made bread. But he answered and said, It is written, Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeded out of the mouth of God. Then the devil taketh him up into the holy city and set him on the pinnacle of the temple, and said unto him, If thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down, for it is written, He shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone. Jesus shall not tempt the Lord thy God. Again, the devil all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them. Let's watch the 8. And said unto him, All these things will I give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. Then said Jesus unto him, Get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. Then the devil delivered him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto him. That is what we are looking at tonight. All right, so I have this, I think I'm going to. Uncle Max, somebody may ask from just what I said, what does the temptation of Jesus got to do with me? What answer would you give them?
Well, the temptation of Jesus is a template, if you like, for the ways in which the devil tempts us all in diverse ways at diverse times. So it's not a one-off kind of occasion. This is something that happens all the time. And the purpose of this passage was to give an illustration of how the devil can approach one with temptations, and also kinds of responses that we need to be able to deliver in order to escape the traps of the devil. So, you know, these are temptations we face every day. How many of us have not been flattered into doing something that we would not normally do if we were thinking in a rational thinking minds? How many of us have been fed inducements to do things that we know are not correct? Because these are the ways in which the devil has tempted Jesus, and therefore also tempts us. So it is very, very relevant indeed. We just have to understand how it translates into our everyday lives.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, Sam. Well, maybe just a follow-up question, and I'll come to Nisabam. What is the significance of the way the responses that Jesus gave to the devil, Satan, the signal, those it is written, those documentation? How significant are those, and how can we relate them to our lives?
Well, he's making the point that the answers to the temptations we face have already been codified in the Bible. And so to be able to withstand these temptations, we need to embody the principles in these codes in the Bible. Yeah. And what this means is that we have to understand what the commandments are that we have been asked to observe. We have to understand them very, very thoroughly, and therefore be able to use them as an external reference of God when our internal compass perhaps is a bit conflicted or confused. We all need guidance from time to time. How Jesus responds to these temptations is the way in which he illustrates that guidance that we seek is in the good book, and we should therefore keep making reference for greater clarification, understanding, and perception, so we can recognize more easily the temptations that come our way and also be able to respond to them.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Looks as if we're having some technical glitches from your end. It's not very clear very well, but hopefully we can get through that. All right, Nisaba, I think we're going to. We have a slide on the screen, and this the handiwork of Nisaba. I don't know how he sat down to put all this scriptures into this analytical form. I mean, it's awesome, and thank God for the grace and the wisdom to do this. So, from what we have on the screen, I think it has to do with the the part of the truth table. But Nisaba, can you please take us through the if and then arguments that the enemy brought us. By the way, we broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube and also Modern Ghana Radio. If you just join us, you can join our broadcast by calling me 240-280-2633, or you can text 510-931-0946. All right, so Nisaban, can you take us through the arguments? I don't know whether it's the if-then clause. If you can take us through quickly, I mean, just give us some, pointers on that.
Dr. Boison, thank you for today. Thank you, Uncle Max, for that enlightening take on the temptations. Dr. Boison, the choice of the if-then, what we know as the conditional argument or hypothetical propositions, the fact that the devil chose that tells you where he was going with this temptation. Because that form of argument has a lot of pitfalls in it. And one has to be very careful in the way the questions are lobbed at you, if you should be on the receiving end. So the if-then type of argument is very instructive. So you come to the first argument, and the devil comes and says, if you are the Son of God, then 10 stones to bread. If you are the Son of God. In logic, whenever you encounter the if-then argument, you have to do two things. Identify parts of the argument. So the proposition or the statement that comes after the if, that statement is what we call the antecedent. And then the statement or the proposition that comes after the then is what we call the consequent. Dr. Boison, the danger in this is that the antecedent, the truth of the antecedent is taken to be sufficient for the truth of the consequent. Let me repeat it. I said the if-then argument, hypothetical propositions are dangerous grounds. The antecedent is taken to mean that its truth is sufficient. Its truth is a sufficient condition for the truth of the consequent. So let's put it in context with this. The proposition, the antecedent for the first temptation was that you are the Son of God. That is the antecedent. You can turn stones to bread. That is the consequent. And if we said the truth, the truth of the antecedent is a sufficient condition for the truth of the consequent, then this is what the devil was proposing. The fact that Jesus was the Son of God was a sufficient condition for the truth of the fact that he could turn stones to bread.
Okay.
That is the first. Then you come to the other side when you argue from the consequent to the antecedent. With that, it goes like this. The truth of the consequent is a necessary condition for the truth of the antecedent, which means the ability of Jesus, or anyone for that matter, to turn stones to bread will be a necessary condition for being the Son of God. So get the danger there, Dr. Boison, audience. What the devil was saying, Jesus, if you are the Son of God, the fact of it is sufficient for you to be able to turn stones into bread. On the other hand, anybody who can turn stones to bread will have what it takes to also be called the Son of God. Because the truth of the consequent is a necessary condition for the truth of the antecedent.
Okay.
So again, you realize that it may look like a simple argument, but if you really go into it, you realize that the devil came prepared, ready to actually do to Jesus what he did to Adam and Eve. And he was prepared. So that choice of argument, that choice is what is instructive here. When you come to the second temptation, again, he said, if you are the Son of God, cast yourself down. Oh, so again, being able to cast yourself down, the truth of being able to cast yourself down will be a necessary condition for you to be the Son of God. Or being the Son of God is a sufficient condition for you to be able to cast yourself down. And for what purpose? To achieve what? Now, it gets sweeter and more dangerous, Dr. Boison, with the third temptation. You realize that the devil dropped the if argument altogether. He dropped the if you are the Son of God.
Okay.
He dropped it and then brought in something what Uncle Mas called the inducement. The first two temptations, Jesus was really going to abuse power without actually gaining anything, except to mesmerize his audience, which will be you and I and the world to come, right? To mesmerize that he had the ability to do certain things, so he did it. Not because there was a need for him to do it, he just did them. But in the third temptation, the devil did something interesting. He offered a bribe. And it was with the bribe that he again launched into the if-then argument. He said, Jesus, the Bible says, he took Jesus to a high mountain. Dr. Boison, before I even touch on that, one of the things, when we started this in verse 1, it was the Spirit that led Jesus
into the wilderness. Okay.
to the wilderness. It was the Holy Spirit that led Jesus. And from there, the devil took him. What I mean, what an earth-shaking information. The devil was not afraid of the might of Jesus. He took him. Jesus allowed it, right? So you and I shouldn't even think we are off limits to the devil. Are we getting the picture clear?
Yep.
We are not off limit. But that doesn't mean, the fact that we are not off limit does not mean we will necessarily fall. And that answers your question you posed. What does, especially it is written, what does it mean? Uncle Max gave the apt answer. It means that which is the answer is captured. It is
Already documented.
So if you ever find yourself in such a situation as Jesus did, do as Jesus did. Don't go praying. Make sure you know the answer, because you've taken the trouble to educate yourself about the questions being posed. That's the bottom line.
So you should always be prepared.
Yes, sir. Information, knowledge is power. Knowledge will take you out of jams. So, with the third temptation, the devil comes and says, Jesus, the location, exceedingly high mountain. Exceedingly high mountain. And the Bible said he showed Jesus all the kingdoms of the world.
Yeah.
Not all the kingdoms of the earth. All the kingdoms of the world. The world has earth as part of it. Vice versa. World simply means the world, the earth, with the cultures and everything that pertains to the life of the people who inhabit the earth. Said he showed Jesus all the kingdoms, the domains, the political domains, all of them. Not only the kingdom, he also showed the glory of all those kingdoms to Jesus. So he did two things, Dr. Boison. He showed all the kingdoms of the earth. He also showed the glory of all the kingdoms of the earth, of the world. Two things. They are two distinct things.
And those were all tempting, huh?
Very tempting. Right? Very tempting. And then he asked for something in return, Dr. Boison. Again, he asked Jesus, fall down, one, and worship me. And all the kingdoms of the earth and all the glory of all the kingdoms of the earth, I will give to you. So again, Dr. Boison, the devil asked for two things. Jesus falling down unto him, and Jesus worshiping him. Are we getting the picture clear? A picture.
Right, so make us understand, make our audience grasp the whole mentality. Falling down and worship. So the devil wasn't content with just one of them. He wanted both.
He wanted both. Which means careful reading of this text is very important. It's very easy to confuse and worshiping. People think they are one. And the reason it is important is that look at the way Jesus answered. Jesus answered, he said, get thee behind me, get thee hence, for it is written. Hey, one, you shall serve, you shall only worship God and only God. Two, only God shall you serve? Two things: worship and service, based on the answer of Jesus. The devil asks for falling down and then worship. So why did Jesus quote a verse that gives us two things: worship and service, which gives us the idea that the falling down actually symbolizes a servant offering service to a superior or a master.
Okay.
Are you getting? And then worship is a subordinate reverencing a superior. They are two different things. Are we getting the picture clear? So you see call it the technical word is staggering, but the easier word is combine or combination. You have the devil showing Jesus the kingdoms, all the kingdoms of the earth. He showed Jesus the glory of all the kingdoms of the earth. Again, you come to the second thing. He says, bow down and worship me. Jesus says, only God is to be worshipped, and only God is to be served. Why is this important for us? I think the next question, I will leave the floor for Uncle Max to.
Uncle Max, you can come in. Please come in. And go, Uncle Max, before you come in, let me pose a question to you. I think you mentioned it is written aspect, and I think Nisaba also did mention that having the knowledge, already having the information before you even encounter the problem is very important. So in our political terms or political arena, sometimes we say people go to the job or to learn on the job. Looking at the story of Jesus and the devil, would you say it's safe to enter any position with a blank knowledge? Okay, I'm just going to take the position and I'll learn on the job. Like somebody assuming the position of the president and so, okay, don't worry, I'll learn on the job as day by day, I'll learn my job description and get to. Is that a safe thing to say or do?
I don't think that's a very safe or wise thing to do. Frequently, we are asked to move into positions or situations where we may not have prior experience. But not having prior experience of a specific situation does not mean we cannot prepare. And, in previous discussions, we've looked at analogies and similes and so on, where we are able to extend our knowledge by comparison of one thing with another thing. Yeah. And so even if we are not 100% familiar with a particular situation, if we are being asked to enter into it, we should do some research. We should find out as much as we can and then extrapolate from the knowledge and experience we already have to be able to be prepared to some extent with, for the situation we are entering into. So if one is going into political office, for example, you have to understand the terrain that you're going into and what is going to be asked of you in terms of the leadership, in terms of the guidance, in terms of the resource management, in terms of the communications, and all the paraphernalia that goes with the job. You have to study and you have to be prepared. Otherwise, it's a bit like putting somebody who's never learned how to ride on a bicycle and saying, okay, ride. It won't happen. They will fall off. Yeah. And this is the nature of life. Life is a dynamic thing. It is always moving. And what we need to do is to build up within ourselves sufficient momentum, if you like, sufficient experience that when we get on the bicycle, having practiced for a long time or however long it takes, when we get on the bicycle, we are able to maintain our balance and steer the bicycle without having to think about it. Without having to think about it. And so we should get to a point spiritually where when temptations come our way, we are able to dismiss them without having to think about it. Because we have programmed ourselves to be able to navigate the pulls and the pushes and so on with the parameters and the guidance of the 10 commandments in the Old Testament and the 2 commandments in the New Testament. So we are not affected unduly by these temptations, but we need to embody them. And one of the ways we embody them is through constant prayer and supplication and so on, where we run these programs of integrity and understanding and dedication through ourselves, through our minds and our bodies on a regular basis until such time that they become second nature, they become a part of us. So we don't have to think about it. And so if somebody comes and says, hey, I have a present to give you for free because I think you're a good person, you don't have to think about it to say, oh, that's nice, I will receive it. You don't have to think about it. If somebody comes and says, well, I have some poison for you to drink, that's it's going to kill you, will you take it? Again, you don't have to think about it. You immediately say no. You understand? Because you understand where the poison is going to get you. So you don't have to think about it. You program yourself to deal with that situation. Unfortunately, most of us haven't programmed ourselves to understand that corruption and bribery and so on and so forth are poisons that will kill us spiritually. So we weigh up the pros and cons. How likely am I to be found out and disgraced and so on and so forth? Instead of just saying, no, this is a poison, it's going to kill me, so I won't take it.
All right, thank you very much, Uncle Maria. That's a lot of wisdom for them. Let me ask you guys a question. Any of you can take it. Let me digress a little bit and go to the account of Genesis, I think chapter 39, where, if I'm right, if I'm not, forgive me, where Joseph had the encounter with Potiphar's wife. That was also some kind of temptation. This guy, Joe, tried to explain and reason with Mrs. Potiphar, but she wouldn't take a no for an answer. She wouldn't even understand what the the young boy was trying to say. And so Joseph makes the argument that you are my master's wife, and the only thing that my master keeps away from me is you. Everything else, I am the in charge. How was Joseph supposed to reason with this lady? Because Jesus used the word. He was on 3 occasions. He was able to confront the devil and squarely meet him and give him responses that the devil kind of, whether he took it or not, he was able to, go away. In Joseph's experience, what would have been the best approach, since this lady wasn't going to take an? And by the way, in Joseph's experience, not many of us men in this generation would have passed. We don't know whether, Potiphar's wife, the husband is gone to work doing something, and here I'm in charge. Nobody said, just the 2 of us, and if I do it, it's tantamount to scholarship. Everything I want in this house, you're going to give it to me. I'll be the boss. Taking the boss's jewels. That's a big temptation that would have earned him some, price. But then at the end, it's going to be something that he couldn't pay for. Getting back to my question, what were the kind of responses that Joseph could have given to Potiphar's wife for him to escape without there being any grudge? How? I know, Nisa, you are laughing. Not about serious. Jesus got away with the devil this time. How was Joseph supposed to respond to Potiphar's wife for her to understand?
No,
it is written.
Dr. Boison, even if it is not written, we have something called conscience.
Okay.
And so we have the golden rule. If Joseph was Potiphar and Potiphar was Joseph, would Joseph be okay if Potiphar went in to his wife even if it was the wife throwing herself at Potiphar. You getting me? So you have matters of conscience to guide us.
But the woman at that time was conscienceless. She wouldn't take no.
So, I mean, the fact that the woman was imprudent, unconscionable, and whatever you can say doesn't mean you should also be one. You understand? So Joseph did the right thing, but it cost him, it nearly cost him his life. But who said standing on principles, behaving ethically won't cost you?
Mm.
You getting me? In the end, it paid off.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean it will always pay off like that. But don't forget, at the end of the day, there is an accounting. You getting me? So for the sake of that accounting, one day you do the right thing and your conscience is there to guide you. It's it's what we call the golden rule, right? It is published in our conscience and in our hearts. Even children know that. So, and yes, I mean, what makes it dangerous is just like Jesus was offered the whole earth and the whole world, right? And don't forget, when the devil used the whole world, it included the inhabitants. So Potiphar's wife was even there.
Part of it, huh?
You getting me? So that's the point. We should be able to act ethically, and being able to do so requires sharpening our intellects and sharpening our conscience, so that at the right time, at any time, we'll be able to know, even if we don't have the full information, we can have an understanding of what the ramifications could be.
Thank you, sir. Uncle Max, do you have any addition?
Yes, I think Pastor Strong has laid down the fundamentals. Yeah, we have to apply the golden rule in every situation. But to try to answer your question slightly different, the expression of that golden rule may differ from culture to culture. And always, when you are communicating with somebody, you have to speak in a language which they understand. Otherwise, you get nowhere. In the temptation of Jesus by the devil, he made reference to the Bible, the Torah, which the devil was familiar with. So there was a communication issue there, and Jesus was able to say, "It is written." Now, in the case of Joseph and Potiphar's wife, remember, he was a stranger in the land who had been brought to Egypt. So he may not have become completely familiar with the customs of Egyptians and their way of expressing the golden rule. Because if he had, then perhaps he might have been able to show Potiphar's wife that what she was proposing was against her customs, her people's custom and tradition, and so on and so forth. And that might have headed her off and resolved the situation without Joseph, risking his advancement. So, but then again, as Pastor Kwong said, in Joseph's case, this was one of the tests that came his way in order that he would be able to rise to an even higher position in the land. So always we have to bear in mind that we will encounter temptations, but let us always be mindful that it may be simply a test to establish whether we are ready and able for a bigger challenge or a bigger position or advancement and so on. We don't know. But the only way we can be sure that we aligned with God's will, is to follow that golden rule and to observe His commandments and to do the at all times.
All right. Thank you very much. Yes, that answers the question. Yeah, I mean, abiding by the golden rule is very important. Unfortunately, some people wouldn't want to do that, but of the two parties or more, at least there should be a few who want to abide by them. That will also lead to helping to resolve issues. We'll take a quick break, and when we'll come back, let me go and do some commercials. If you have something you want to advertise, everyone is ready to help you. So let's listen to our Banahini people, and when we come,
we are so excited to announce to our people Ghana that we are finally opened and we are accepting patients. At Banahini Specialist Hospital, our extraordinary physicians and nurses are here to provide a high-quality medical service to our extraordinary patients. Our services include primary care services, maternal, neonatal, and pediatric services. We also have an in-house pharmacy. We have X-ray and laboratory services available to you. Come to us for all your healthcare needs, and you will be happy you did, because we believe that health is wealth. Thank you, and stay blessed.
One Radio, we're broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, and also on Modern Ghana Radio. Before the break, Uncle Max was explaining to us the question I posed concerning Joseph's temptation and how he solved it and how he could have done it a different way, or if he made the same thing. But earlier on, Nisaba had also given us a very prolific response. All right, Nisaba, let's come back to you. Give us some example of this if and then arguments that kind of are open to us in modern days. Do we find ourselves in the same if and then? Typical examples you can give us to, so our listeners can, glean from it. I know we go through all kinds of temptations here. Some of them by our own desires. Sometimes we make some decisions that later on we blame the devil for it. But then any practical event, then arguments that we can run away from.
Dr. Boison, I mean, using just from Jesus' example, the devil said, if you will fall down, if you will worship me, then I will give you all the kingdoms of the earth, of the world. Then I will give you the glory of all the kingdoms of the world. Inducement. What would you do in order to receive forbidden fruit? If you are offered forbidden fruit, would you take it? If you would take it, then what does the forbidden fruit mean to you? Because it must mean something to you for you to commit to it. The if then. You get me? And Dr. Boison, as I said, the choice of the if then argument form, because it has so many pitfalls, so many traps in it, the choice of it by the devil is very instructive. And if we take that as a model for this life, right, we must come. Let's take, for example, what happened in Ghana. Why would a minister have over $1 million stashed in her house
when we need them here?
You see, and again, without digressing, Dr. Boison, if a low-level position like a son, I mean, in terms of the hierarchy of positions within the cabinet, right, sanitation could have this amount of money, hiding in a house, right? You could probably say it's the practice, right?
Of most of the ministers.
Yeah, a lot of the ministers, a lot of the parliamentarians, past and present, they'll be guilty of it because that's why a lot of them are quiet, right? So you come, if you do such a thing, then what happens to the country?
They don't care.
If you dip your hands into the public coffers, then what happens to the public? Something meant for 1,000 people, one person siphons it. Then what happens to the 999? The if then. Yeah. If you have the opportunity, would it be enough to engage in the unthinkable? They say what do they say? Your opportunity and propensity, right? If one is predisposed already and the opportunity presents itself.
So, yeah. Igbami.
You getting me? The if then should guide us. And again, as we said, because of the fact that with the if then sort of argument, the antecedent is sufficient. It's a sufficient. The truth of the antecedent is a sufficient condition for the truth of the consequent. If the inducement is great, then all you need is the inducement to justify the action. Where does that take the society? Where does that take you even? You getting me? So, as I said, it applies in a lot of ways. And Dr. Boison, when you come to the area of education, the area of training the mind, right? Using the if-then argument to create what we call the truth table can literally expand and extend your mind to dimensions you've never thought of.
That's true.
First, you have to deal with when for the if-then argument to be valid, then both the consequent and the antecedent have to be true. So if you have a true antecedent and a true consequent, then the argument will be true. When you have a true antecedent but a false consequent, then the argument is false. Oh, but we have one truth there and one falsity there. Why do the combination of the two? Why would the combination of the two render the whole argument false? Because it is in the nature of if-then argument to realize that both have to be true for the argument to be true. Right? However, and this is the danger point, if the antecedent is false and the consequent is true, the argument is still true. That's mind twisting. Why? Because Dr. Boison, the consequent can happen without the necessity of the antecedent also happening. And that's why it's dangerous with this argument, why the devil took it, which is to say the devil was saying, if you take the first argument, right, that it is possible for one to turn stones into bread without necessarily being the Son of God.
Of God.
So the question is, if the devil knew that and he chose that, what was his goal? for asking Jesus to perform that? If he knew that, what was his goal for asking Jesus to cast himself down? You getting me? That's what this if-then argument will force you to start thinking. Then when you plot and you realize that, whoa, it is possible for the argument to be valid only, not only when the consequent and the antecedent are true. But when the consequent is true, but the antecedent is false, the argument is still true, because all it's saying is that, listen, the consequent only operates on necessity, not sufficiency.
All right. Okay, thank you. Yeah, let me see if Uncle Mark is Uncle Mark, receiving kingdoms of the world and their glory are necessary inducement for one to bow down to the devil and worship him. And I believe each and every one of us have our own worlds. The devil presented Jesus with the entire world. I may not be able to present you with the entire world or even a new flashy car or a new cell phone, whatever. But my mind is drawn to something concerning documentation, knowledge, and all that. And again, my mind is drawn to most of the videos that I've seen from Ghana, especially from our unique lady prophetess pastor who is trending so much in Ghana. I don't know whether I don't know whether I can mention him at Ghana. It doesn't cease to amaze me. I listen to some of the content that spews out from the pulpit from when she preaches, and I begin to ask myself, why does she have so many following? Can you give us some gist?
This question has me floored, because I honestly have no idea why she has so many people following her, except that perhaps some are attracted to her physicality. They think she is good looking, and so they attend to watch her perform. I can't imagine that they flock to her sermons because they are seeking truth, wisdom, and understanding, because she's manifestly short on those qualities or values, So I don't
because
know.
Even
the profanity.
The profanity that sometimes comes out of her, it's amazing. I say, would she even have more than 5 congregants? But yet, people flock to her ministry, or I don't know, maybe because of the things that she promises to give them, especially the women. But it's mind-blowing, because that actually reminds me about this text that, somebody can present part of the world to you and you will lose your sense and just go and follow, because, people will have just, if some of us were in those days, if the devil came to us, how many people wouldn't have fallen? They would have just, okay, give me the word. But in this case, Jesus was unique because he himself was God. So there was no way he would have fallen. But for you and I, who are mortals, that are one day going to go back to the dust, it's very difficult. The temptations could come in several ways. I think this about had his hand up. I'll give him that.
This is not a Ghanaian thing. It's not an African thing. It's not even, it's a human thing.
Global.
Don't forget 1979, Jim Jones led over 1,000 of his followers to Guyana and asked them to drink poison, and they did. And they died. This is America. Don't go too far. Somebody instigates the insurrection, the attack on
January 6th. The capital.
And then the state has taken him on. He is charged, he is arraigned, his mugshot is taken, and people are paying to have the mugshot. And in so doing, are paying for his legal fees. What makes you think that it is only Ghana or Africa that people are just, sorry, you getting me? It's a human thing. There is this clip of a South African pastor who asked his congregation to actually start chewing grass, and they did. They were chewing grass like goats because the pastor asked them to. There is the other time a pastor had a whatever program, and he was washing the private parts of the church
members
online. So listen, they use the word cult. There is something about the human being, right, that can be very distressing, but it is what it is. So Agrada is not a unique case. You find the Agradas everywhere, even at the presidency. Even at the presidency. Yesterday, he said, this president said the law allows him to do whatever he wants. That's being the president. The law allows him to do whatever he wants. No wonder he said he could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and he will go scot-free. That is, and you have people defending that and paying money as their contribution towards this person's legal funds.
Fees.
Right? So we have Agrada in America, maybe Simony, and you have these followers who have refused. There was a time, if you were even a parliamentary candidate and something came out that you had a girlfriend somewhere, that was enough to derail your campaign. And here was one person who 23 women came out to say he actually did something to them. And people, I mean, I can go on and on. This person had granted an interview and they asked him, hey, you are going to run on this Republican whatever. The Republican Party prides itself on being evangelical. I mean, believe in the Bible and what have you. Have you accepted Jesus Christ? And he said he doesn't know. When was the last time you went to church? He said at least 50 years have passed. Was given the Bible to read, 2 Corinthians, and he said 2 Corinthians. I mean, he said he doesn't need Jesus to forgive his sins. Yet, he became the president. Over 60 million people voted for him in what is supposed to be, quote unquote, Christian America. So what makes you think Agrada and their followers?
They are even small, huh?
Thank you, sir.
Uncle Max, well, give us your closing remarks. Sometimes I'm mesmerized, but you're Fandamara. We day inside. Somebody say we come with the go. Oh, I'm sure God must have a sense of humor. Sometimes I wonder how God thinks. I wish one day he would just grab me on his lap and say, Charles, just come spend an hour with me and let's just have some fun. And I would just experience how God thinks. Sometimes
Bruce Almighty.
There
is a movie called Bruce Almighty.
Sometimes I ask myself, so God, don't you regret creating us? But it's just funny. I mean, it's just God. Anyway, Uncle Max, give us your closing remarks and let's call it a night.
I think, God, I'll be looking at people like Agrada for entertainment and amusement. To offset all the misery and bad things that are happening elsewhere on the planet. So maybe this is why we have people like that to entertain us and basically show us how not to proceed. So we can say, there, but for the grace of God, go I.
Amen.
But this show is about divinity and humanity and connecting the two. and we speak frequently about how you need to exercise mental discipline in order to be able to narrow paths, get through a narrow path. And I think it is phenomenal, like Mr. Trump and his endeavor, which highlight and underline the critical need that we are critical thinkers. Yeah, that we don't just accept anything that we encounter or go with a crowd, follow the herd. But we take a step back and assess things deeply according to spiritual guidelines and parameters to ascertain whether this is good or that is not so good, and which way should we go. Yeah, we do need to bring our mind into the exercise of our faith. I think I need it.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Like they say, so when we were back in school those days, they called something FTC, follow the crowd. And I think somewhere in the, what is it? This English book, English Aid, will tell us majority carries the vote. But as we grew older and older, realize that it's not always majority that carries the vote. It might carry the vote and lead us into, a ditch or something. But we are living in a critical age where we now even have artificial intelligence. It's so weird. I mean, we have advanced. And so our minds also have to advance. That is why we have this show on Era One, Divine Connection. And I bring these people on for us to help us to think critically. The things that we've been doing in the past that never helped us. It is time for us to change. You cannot follow somebody because everybody is fun. Sometimes I watch TV, I sit and analyze, and I feel like my blood pressure is going way up because, and my wife would tell me, then stop watching that, just take it off. I see some particular people and something just goes down me and I say, do we all have the same kind of brain? Be analytical, use the critical brains that God gave us. We are a tripartite being. We have the spirit, soul, and the body. And so the Spirit of God gives us the conscience to think. You can look at something and say, this is right, this is not. Don't just follow the crowd. Use the brains God has given us. And accidentally or incidentally, God is not going to spread open the heaven and say, my son, like he did for Apriku, my son, my daughter, who incidentally is dead. He's not going to do that, but he speaks to us softly to our conscience. There are some things that you look at, you're going to do, and so I deal with there on your crap. And we follow some people, and they are ending up somewhere. These days, because of social media, videos that come on our phones, I mean, they are just appalling. And people just sit down and put a phone in front of them, and the videos, the recording they do, you wonder, are these people same people that God created all of us, or they were created by a different God? It's something. But anyway, we are here to analyze issues. We take the scriptures and the way they apply to our lives, we gain them and we move forward. We cannot continue being babies like Paul said. When I was a child, I spoke and taught as a child, but now that I'm old, I have to be a critical thinker. So please, all over the world, if somebody is doing something that doesn't appeal to your mind, don't just sit there and say, oh, I'm just going to dress every Sunday and go to church. This is a platform where we take spiritual things on. God has given us a wisdom. Thank God we have this able men to help us. We are all believers and Christians, but if some things are not going well, we will not take it. There came a time where everybody will come and say, thou say the Lord, and we just follow them. But these days, no. Who can say, thou say the Lord? Because at what time did he say it? We will go down to the thou sayest and find out how he said it. We will also read the scriptures like the people of Berea. After you have preached, we will go home. We will not just go and eat banku and shit up. We will also say the scripture and make sure what you said is exactly what it was said and the content in which it was said. Somebody will just grab the middle of the scriptures and give it to us and we just follow. Somebody will say, maybe I'll just take the Bible, open to the middle, wherever it says I'm going to follow. When you open and it says John 11:35 and Jesus wept, are you going to weep? No, we can't do that. We can't take things out of context. We have to read. We have to understand. Go to Era One. Look at the video that this Nisa Bai and Uncle Max have taught us. Please listen and let's change the world. That is what Era One is doing. We are changing the world one day at a time. And so on behalf of my studio manager, Dr. Setitu, and all the Era One team, and my able man, Nisa Bai, Uncle Max, thank you very much. It's 11 minutes past our time, but I think it's worth it. Thank you for meeting me here again tonight. We'll be back same time next week. We'll continue hammering the message. We will change the lives of people. I mean, one of my friends said, we will force you to think. If you don't want to think, we'll force you to look at the situation and stop thinking the old ways. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. And in 9 days' time, we'll celebrate Neil Saban's birthday. He said he's still going younger. Thank God for your wisdom and your grace. All right, gentlemen, have a good evening. And I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.
God bless.
All righty. Bye-bye.
So